Welcome to everybody. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I was never going to get to the screen there, but I've made it. Welcome to everybody.
Welcome to everybody.
And I would love to say I could get rid of this echo, but I can't get rid of this echo. So all I will say is welcome to this rather tricky conversation. I was looking forward to giving you all lots of really cool ideas on how to make systems more interactive and more friendly and more everything. And the truth is, I found out that you guys aren't doing much at all. You are not making use of the tools. Are you? No, you're not. I know you're not, because everybody I've spoken to about this says, oh, no, we don't do that. Oh, we don't do that. Yeah, we could do with some more interaction. There seems to be some sort of fear here. Why? Are you so used to hiding behind PowerPoint slides that you won't interact with your audience? Maybe we need to take it back to first principles. My first principles are that when I speak to an audience, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to my mum. Because since I was 9 and I had to sing in the church choir, I got over my fear of public speaking and my ability to throw my voice into big rooms by always imagining my mum was at the back of the room. Many times she was. Actually, quite a few times she might be halfway down the room, but I would always sing to her as if she was at the back of the room. When I started public speaking, I imagined my mum, yep, you've guessed it, at the back of the room. But what has this got to do with interaction? Well, it's got one very, very, very simple thing to do with interaction. Stop doing your presentations as if there's 1,000 people out there and you don't know who to look at. Focus on one person and have a conversation with that one person. Don't try and talk to the whole audience. After all, they're all sitting behind the camera, one camera. So have a conversation with one person. Don't name them. And you're having a conversation with everybody. This is what the best radio hosts do. They talk to you as if you're the only listener. And if they can then have that conversation with you in their heads, because you are having that conversation with them. And now when it comes to interaction, you're just asking one person to interact with you. And again, if they don't know that that's the sort of thing you do, they're probably not going to interact very easily. I'm very well known as a stooge. So if we have an event and I'm in the audience, I am very often the first person put comments in the chat, the first person to raise my hand, because I know a secret. And the secret is, if I interact with the host, ask a question, put a few comments in the chat, almost every time I do that, other people will now put comments in the chat, respond to my chat messages, raise their hand so they can speak as well. Nobody likes to go first, except me. I don't care. It really doesn't bother me. I've got over that years ago. I'm too old now to worry about keeping quiet. So I'll join in before everyone else joins in. But then when I join in, everybody else joins in too. And you get the interaction. So start your meetings with an encouragement. Look, I had a post on LinkedIn I saw last week where a person said that they don't like having meetings with cameras on. It seemed really weird because all I ever hear is people saying, oh, I want the cameras on so I know there's an audience there. So why did this person not want a camera on? Well, they admitted the reason they didn't want a camera on was because they didn't want to look at themselves all the time, because they tend to lose their attention by watching themselves all the time. You do realize that Zoom has a function in it saying you can hide your own view of yourself. You do realize that, don't you? That's an option. You can then look at everybody else, but you remove yourself from the group. That's a basic function of Zoom meetings. If you don't encourage them to have the cameras on, then how are you going to get them to interact? Well, of course, this is the challenge we have even greater when we talk about webinars. But if you want people to react to you in webinars, then you need to encourage them. So add something at the beginning of the meeting to build some interaction, maybe even before the meeting starts. But add something that they will get involved in. And I asked ChatGPT, as I always do, to see if it's got any ideas that I haven't thought of, and it didn't come up with a very good list. So I made another list of my own. And the the most common one I ever hear, and there's quite a few apps that do this now, is you just say, welcome everybody, where are you around the world? Where are you? And then there are apps that you can put the location in and build a map of where everybody is. And this is a really powerful one because it not only gets people to interact where they're from, you'll get comments then, people make comments about where other people are. You will get comments about how international your group is. You can find out what the weather is in different parts of the country or different parts of the world and interact with people that way. And suddenly, guess what? You've got a discussion, especially us Brits. We love talking about the weather. So if we talk where everybody is, and then we talk about the weather where everybody is, and some people have got sun, and some people have got snow, and some people have got rain, and you've got an interaction going. Now, you may not want this in your webinar. Well, fine. Do it 5 minutes before the webinar starts. Get people interacting about where they're from. If it's a business type organization, maybe you want to get people to put in what their job title is, or what's their funniest job title, or something else about them, or what's their favorite hobby. What pets have they got? Anything that's sort of personal, but not too personal, if you know what I mean, to get them interacting. Who's got the biggest dog? Who's got the smallest dog? Anything like that to get some interaction, get some chat, slightly off topic, but some chat. Now, this one was by Zoom AI, so I can't claim this one as my idea, but I think it's a good idea. And that is an emoji check. How are you feeling now? Explain with one emoji. Now, I like this for two reasons. Firstly, it gets people interacting. But secondly, it gets people using the emojis. And if you can get them using the emojis using this, they might put it in the chat, or you might do it in the emoji that scrolls up. If you can get people using emojis, then that is a great way to start them using emojis for the rest of the webinar. If you can't get feedback from chat, feedback in emojis is another great way to get interaction. And I'll get to my third, and then I'll see if my friend Mike's got a few ideas. But the third one is a this or that. So give them a quick poll question where it's a 50-50, one side or the other. See how people vote. Again, don't make it frivolous, but don't make it completely political or extreme in any way. Just make it sort of casual. What do you feel? What do you enjoy? Cameras on or off? Tea or coffee? Chat or emojis? Make it something about what's going on, but some way that people will get interrupted in their brain. You want to get those disconnects in the brain so they have to suddenly think about something. So, Mike, are you there? And what's your favorite way of getting your audience to wake up and take part? Did you want to come off mute when you told us?
Sorry about that. I'm noticing,
right.
Johnny, that you're also having your video has gone black.
Yeah,
on
it
me.
keeps flashing on and off, doesn't it?
Yes. So that is definitely how to get everybody's attention. But some attention grabbers as Johnny works on that is let me just go to replace myself here for now. There we go. As Johnny works on his camera. So some different things at the beginning of the meeting that I would do would be similar to what John has already said, which is, where in the world are you? And this is something that we often do as well. And we'll put that into YouTube chat quite often. Other times, we'll do other situations of, yes, the poll would be a great thing. Specifically in our situation when we have dealers, it would be, so from what province are you joining us today? So that would be an example of it. And another example too would be to be able to bring, so poll, where in the world are you? If it is more of a generalized, if we're broadcasting to the world on YouTube, then that's definitely a good one to bring into chat. If it's more specific in my situation, and again, as I said, with dealers, it would be more of, okay, which one of our sales reps do you are you talking with currently, as an example? So stuff like that. Johnny, I think you're back. I think I see you.
Yeah.
Do I hear you?
I
hear
do.
you.
And would you like to know
Excellent.
why I kept disappearing?
It wasn't a magical disappearing act. It was.
Well, it's more than magical. For some reason, don't know why. Probably people are WhatsApping me or messaging me. But Zoom decided that it would prefer to look at my phone's camera rather than me. I mean, thank God my phone is face down, and God knows what you would have seen otherwise. But yeah, it just keeps flipping over to my iPhone. Getting off that machine already. I wish I'd fried it properly when I broke it on Friday. So there we are.
This is true. Very cute.
I'm
So
obviously
I definitely agreed with you when it comes to polls. That I definitely agreed with you with. I definitely agreed with the, whereabouts in the world are you watching us from, joining us from? That one's popular. I'm trying to think of other ones. that I've used quite often. Again, we do more of within Canada. So again, it would be within Canada type meetings. So it would be specific to, it might be a reference to the province, to the city, you know, what's your best burger joint in XYZ? You know, again, or if the host or co-host knew of a great place to eat, you know, have you, you know, ask the dealers, oh, when's the last time you've been there type of scenario, especially if it's a dealer that, or a group of dealers that are within the greater area of a larger city within somewhere in Canada, type of scenario. Sure. It could be all kinds of, again, as John said, staying away from politics, Canadian politics, American politics, world politics, definitely no. And just dealing with the moment actually, and it being more of you know, feeling the crowd, feeling, you know, base it on the topic of the day. Try not to skew too far to the left so that you can't bring it back to your main topic. That would also be a suggestion too, is to, you know, you can personalize it a little bit so everybody feels a little more happy, you know, oh, he cares, the host cares about what we're talking about. And then you warm them up enough. So you're warming up the audience, as you would say. So it'd be sort of a hype man-ish type scenario where you're sort of hyping up the crowd a little bit before the main act comes out. You don't have to go as far as, you know, are you ready? You don't have to start doing all that type of stuff, but you know, that would be my suggestions, John.
I'm obviously living in another world to everybody else, but the feedback I got last week from everybody was, just don't know how to do this. They don't know how to interact with an audience. I mean, these are, you know, these are intelligent people. I can't find I'm trying to find a polite way of saying this, but these are intelligent people who, if you socialize with them, they're really nice guys. They just seem to have this problem that because the person is down the end of the camera and they are official and they feel important to be official and straight-laced, and I don't know what it is, but this ability to have a conversation remotely, maybe because of my ADHD or whatever I've got wrong with me, I don't know what it is, but I'm something along those lines. I don't have any problem. You know, in the past we had this something called a phone. Does anyone remember a phone? And I don't mean these mobile things. I mean a real phone that was nailed to the wall, and you couldn't do anything but talk to somebody. You couldn't see them. You couldn't message them. You couldn't send them a picture when you were trying to, something happened to you. You couldn't send them a picture to explain it. You had to explain it. If a situation happened, you had to tell them about it. You couldn't tell them to see on your Facebook page or WhatsApp them or whatever. You had to have real conversations. And doesn't anyone else know about rhetorical questions? He said, using a rhetorical question. Rhetorical questions are the most powerful way to get people thinking, aren't they? Because every time I ask a question, you know what's happening in your head, don't you? Your subconscious is going to either agree with me or disagree with me. Because 1 and 1 makes 3, doesn't it? No? Okay. Well, 2 and 2 makes 5 if you had 1, but that's 6. So keep up. This interaction is fine. You are not presenting all the time. You don't want to present any of the time, to be honest, but you're not presenting all the time. You are having a conversation. Having a conversation is what works. It's what radio people do all the time. What are all these TV chat shows? They are conversations. Why do you think Mike's turned up? Because he's having a chat with me. These conversations allow us to discuss things. And you can discuss things even when you're the only person speaking, because does everybody else agree with me? If you don't agree with me, put a message in chat or put a comment in YouTube, because we're watching all of the social media that we're connected to, and we know when people say things. Okay, in YouTube, there's a few seconds delay, but it's not that big a delay. And anyhow, even if you're watching this on the recorded version, you can put a comment in the chat, because we'll see it, and we'll return some sort of communication back. But polls are a great idea, because people feel a bit more compelled to get involved, but you want to get the chat going. There's nothing wrong with a conversation being held in parallel to you while you're chatting. While you're presenting, there's no problem with that other conversation going on. It's not that they're not paying attention. It's that they're paying more attention. Conversations are good. And if you can't get the conversation going, then do what I do for other people. As his camera goes back to his mobile phone again. Go and speak to people, and you will find they will interact. Well, at least I hope they will, Mike. Will they interact if you give them a bit of a hint?
We hope so.
Yeah.
It's an interesting world we live in now, John, would be the official answer to that, is that everybody is used to doing this. And I will demonstrate. Oh, am I supposed to be talking to John?
That reminds me, I
Right.
should be doing the washing up now.
Yeah. Oh, am I supposed to pay attention now?
Yeah. Exactly.
That
That is the problem we have. If people are not going to pay attention, they're going to watch you like a TV. Well, they're not even watching you like a TV show, aren't they? Because it's more like a TV on in the background or a radio on the background. You're never going to get much traction with people like that. So if they don't interact, then they're probably not going to buy into whatever you're trying to sell them, whether it's an idea or a product. You need to get the interaction. You need to get them part of the conversation.
Yeah, and
Otherwise,
it doesn't hurt to give a little bit of excitement either to it. Engaging, energetic. Don't just be there going, "Hi, everybody. This is my product." And I said I'm going to read you the spec sheet that you could all download. See the link below.
oh no. I could always pull up a slide and then read that for you if that helps. Yeah. Yeah, you've got to make it interactive. You've got to make it something where people want to take part. And if they don't want to take part, then you probably shouldn't be running the webinar.
Yeah, that's exactly fair. If you've been put into the situation where you're being told to do a webinar and you're not comfortable enough to be on camera and to be able to speak about the topic that you're ready to talk about, guess what? You can't hide it. People can read your body language. They can tell if you're nervous. And if you're nervous, that's okay. If you're knowledgeable and nervous, you're fine. If you're knowledgeable and if you're don't have any knowledge on the topic that you're about to talk about, and you're nervous, guess what? That's a train wreck ready to happen.
Yeah, and they'll just tune out. It's
Right.
a very
And then
competitive,
it's like,
isn't it? It's very competitive. It's easy to join a webinar, but it's also just as easy to leave it. If you have a physical conference event and they've got to drive all the way there, they're probably going to stay around for a while because they've just driven for an hour and they're not going to want to get in their car and drive home again straight away. So they might sit around. So you might be more of a captive audience. But of course, so many more people will take the chance at watching a webinar than driving all the way to an event when they're not really quite sure what they're going to get. So it is You've got more potential people turning up. But as you say, if you don't make yourself interesting, you don't get them interested. You don't prompt them. You don't build some interaction. And of course, if you don't name drop anybody in the audience, everybody will assume it's a recording as well. So to have
Yes.
something that interacts, that makes people realize that you really are there. Well, at least you were there for that segment. You might, the next 5 minutes might be recorded, but at least you were there for that segment because you mentioned their name.
Yeah, that's a good one, Johnny. And on top of that too, what was I going to say? When it comes to the topic and such that you're about to talk about, that if you, we're not saying for you to rehearse, because rehearsing sometimes can look sometimes even worse. But if that gets over your nerves, at least, that's not a bad thing. But you still shouldn't be, quote unquote, reading a script, because we all know when people are reading, right? There are teleprompters. Johnny and I are both using teleprompters. We're both staring at you, but we're not using, I haven't got words going across the screen that are saying, Mike, you must say this now to John so that John knows what he's talking about. No,
Haven't you?
no, we don't do any of that stuff. You do.
I do sometimes use a teleprompter. It's not too obvious to you when I do use one. And I want to talk a bit faster, so I'm going to scroll it up a little bit fast. No, of course we don't use teleprompters. We use teleprompters to see what's going on and ideas. But polls. If you run a poll, guess what? People like to know what the results of the polls were. Now you can tell them, you can show them, but don't just ask a poll and then ignore the results, whatever they are. Make sure you give them the results. You let them know, even if you want to fib about the results. Even if the results are different every time you do a webinar and you just want to tell them what the average of all the results are, that's fine. But do ask questions and then interact with the answers. If you have Q&A, what does everybody know? I bet everybody knows this. On Q&A, you can have anonymous answers, but you can also ask the questions and people can then vote up and down the questions that they support. So you can have 10 questions asked and then people can vote up and down those questions. And then you get to see which are the most popular questions to answer. So you can concentrate on those. So that means the people that can't think of a question can at least partake of the Q&A by voting the questions as well. And that's before we talk about the dreaded breakout rooms. We love breakout rooms. Breakout rooms give us a chance to have a rest. Because you give a challenge to your audience and then you kick them out into breakout rooms. You can go and have a cup of tea. And then when you come back, bring them back out their breakout rooms and ask the results of the challenge. This means that instead of asking 100 people for a point of view or an answer to a question, you can put them into 10 groups of 10 or 20 groups of 5. And they can all go and find the best answer between them for each of the groups. And then you'll never get all, well, you might if you're lucky, but you're very unlikely to get all groups interact to the point where they will want to volunteer an answer. So maybe you get 5 or 6 to then explain their answers. Or by the way, if you do, time them. Because you'll always find somebody, usually looks like me, who will just keep talking. So give them a time limit, time them. And if they go on too long, just cut them off in a polite way because you want to give everybody else a chance. But it's a great way of getting interaction and for you to have a rest at the same time. So breakout rooms are fun. And I know Mike uses breakout rooms, but he uses them for different reasons. But he uses breakout rooms.
I do indeed. Again, it's more specific depending on our use case. Again, of course, if we are in brand and dealer mode, shall we call it, that would be then brands would have their own breakout rooms. Dealers could then go meet the brands in the individual breakout rooms. It could be, if we're in sales mode, dealer mode, then sales reps have their own individual breakout rooms, and then dealers will be able to go in and chat with them. That's my normal use case in most part for larger meetings. Again, of course, if it's a smaller meeting, it would be more of, if it's going to be a handful of dealers for one sales rep, let's say, then there might be not only the sales rep, but there also might be the sales support person that reports to me that also might be joining the meeting. That also might be in its own, that person might be in their own breakout room. If they have a technical question where the salesperson would be in the main meeting, there'd be a breakout room to, if they want to go talk tech, then they can go talk tech with our sales support person in the breakout room. So that would be
That's still
three different
interaction, though.
variations. Total interaction.
Yeah.
Total interaction.
The breakout rooms are really good. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. Breakout rooms are a great way to get smaller groups of people chatting together. And
Yeah, especially if you're starting to have larger groups that are joining, you would definitely want to think about breakout rooms.
Yeah, I even was part of a webinar 3 or 4 months ago, and there was only 5 people in the room. But the people in the room didn't know that. And so I told the host to open the breakout rooms. And she said, but there's only 5 people here. We could have the conversation here. I said, no, trust me. So she opened the breakout room. And these people that hadn't said a single word, hardly put a single phrase into chat, because we were in a breakout room, they wouldn't stop. So the whole concept of the breakout room meant them chat. They didn't realize that there was only 5 of them in the main room, and they could have chatted there. But no, they didn't. They didn't interact, didn't put anything in the chat. Polls seemed to take forever for them to vote. But as soon as we put them in a breakout room, didn't stop them. So maybe there's something psychological there. Breakout rooms interactive. Big webinar, sit there and listen in. Don't know, but it's interaction you need. How are you ever going to find out if somebody wants to buy your product? How are you ever going to find out if somebody agrees with your philosophy? How are you going to find out if anyone thought that the slides you shared were any good? Unless you get some interaction out of them. We can't all wait for feedback forms, which few people fill in nowadays. Get your feedback form filled in during the meeting. Ask for interaction. And I know, because I've heard about all the arguments about it, that the big corporates who are doing lots of heavy marketing, who have very powerful CRMs, we know that they are trying to pull stats out of webinars. Well, guys, you can't pull stats out of webinars if you don't generate some stats during the webinars. So if you want to find out if people are interacting, you've got to give them a reason to press their emoji buttons. If you want to show that they are conversing, you need to make things happen that encourage them to put things in chat. And if you want to know if they're interacting through questions, you've got to encourage them to put through questions. Unless you get them to do the interactions, there's no stats for the marketing guys to work on afterwards. And I can tell you, because I've done it a few times, and I think I've spoken about this a few times, I bet Mike's going to steal this idea. I have actually put in a poll question, do you think you will purchase this product? And I've got people to say, well, they'll buy or not. I've got people to say, ask them a question and say, would you like the £100 or the $100 version Or are you more interested in a 3-day, $1,500 version? And I've got people to give buying answers in the chat, in the polls. Not much chance of them doing that to me face to face. But put it in the chat. Put it in a poll. Even better. Share the poll results, and suddenly you get FOMO. I've only got 10 slots. They always say that, don't they? I've only got 10 slots. You run a poll and 5 people say they want a slot. The rest of the audience is thinking, only 5 slots left. FOMO. They're missing out. Works quite well. I have told you that, because when I do that to you in another webinar, you're going to know what's coming, aren't you? Never mind. You'll have forgotten by then. You can't do a question where you put all your digits of your credit card number in. I don't think that's allowed, Mike, but you can ask those questions and get people interested. And put a silly question in as well. Don't forget the silly questions. Silly questions are always good.
Oh, yeah.
It disrupts the brain. It makes people think again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, it's the more that you break the monotony. Is that the right word, Johnny?
Yeah, that works well.
During a webinar. So all of a sudden, not necessarily a joke, not necessarily, it could be more of a pun. It could be more of a, it could be more of just, not necessarily some dry comedy, not necessarily any type of comedy per se. But again, you want them to, if they caught on, it's one way. If let's put it this way, you'll be able to know if they're still paying attention to you. If you do say something funny, it's funny and it should land, the joke should land, and nobody's laughing, then you lost your audience.
Yeah, I've done references to things at the beginning of the presentation, and then I refer to that later on. And exactly as you say, if people weren't paying attention at the beginning, they'll completely miss the point halfway through when you then refer back to it again.
Yeah. And again, of course, the perfect thing too is to do, if you're doing it at the beginning, also do it in the middle, but also do it at the end, right? There's the infamous threes, right?
Yeah.
People remember things in threes.
Again, just tell them.
Webinar tips. Yeah.
Tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
Yep.
The simplest speech layout possible. Today, I'm going to talk about porcupines. Porcupines and prickly things. Just be careful. Don't get stung by porcupine. One instant speech. And of course, the other thing you have to remember is they don't always remember what you say, Mike, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yes. Yes. You have to be friendly. You have to be polite. Don't be rude. Don't be condescending. Condescending is very noticeable on Zoom. So, and on video, period, people could tell when you're being condescending. So do your best to make sure that, if you didn't like the comment that was made, brush it off, continue on, but don't be condescending going, oh, that was a stupid comment, or that was uncalled for, or any type of derogatory type of rebuttal, because it's what people will remember now is that you did that. They won't remember anything that you were talking about up to that point or after that. You basically ruined the whole webinar then. The webinar is now garbage. So the whole time that you just spent, wasted. And you now wasted everybody else's time because of the condescending nature of one comment. So be very, very careful about that too. That goes to what Johnny's talking about. The way you make them feel, the way you can't be Mr. Negative. Even though it might be a negative topic, you still have to be in a positive realm of, John does a lot of health related topics. Well, a lot of these health related topics could be doom or gloom. It's just, you have to have the same mentality of, a doctor that is properly, you might not have long to live, but they're not going to tell, oh, you're not going to have long to live. You might as well give up now. Though how many doctors would you know that you would never go back to that doctor ever again, saying stuff like that too? Right? So it would be that type of scenario. There's other scenarios too in the tech world where all of a sudden it's like, oh, never do it this way, only do it my way. That's again condescending without backing it up properly and just saying, these are the methods that I've been able to do over the years. And this has worked for me multiple times. Your usage may vary. Where you live may vary. And the way that you do things may vary. But this is what I've been able to do. And this is where, again, you've got to be very, very careful in the regards of not being condescending, going my way or the highway. Because that just, to be blunt, turns people off.
Yeah.
And they'll leave.
And that's not a conversation. When you say you need to do it this way, that's not a conversation. That's just instructions.
Right. And especially if that equipment, if we're going back to tech, especially if that equipment can be used in multiple different ways. It's not proper to actually say, you must start with this, turn this on, turn this off in one way, especially if I can do that turning on and turning off 4 or 5 different ways, and it still works fine. So you can't, if something needs, if you're doing an instructional video or an instructional webinar, great. If something has to be done from A to Z in one way, period, like a medical situation where you're doing a medical type of operation, let's say, great. Then you're showing me A to Z because it has to be done this way. But if you're giving a webinar that this is one method of doing it, would be the sentence, not you must do it this way. There's no other way to do it.
We're telling you this, that you must do interaction. We're telling you. That's what we're telling you. All right? We're telling you. Have I said that enough now? But we're not just saying you must do interaction. We're saying how you can do interaction. And we're saying why the interaction will work. So although we are instructing you in a way of something, we are doing it in a conversational way because we're saying, if you do this, these are the sort of things that can happen. We are giving reason. And people don't like any facts unless there's a good reason, which is why I always laugh about in the 90s, we used to just sell computers because our computer had a faster processor than last week's computer, or a bit more storage capacity than last week's machine. And of course, in the 2000s, they did it with mobile phones as well, didn't they? This is a little bit better than that one. Don't buy the iPhone 17 because the iPhone 18 is going to be around in 6 months' time and you'll get so annoyed that you didn't have that one. Do you know what? Do you know what really gets me laughing my socks off? Now, I'm going to be a little bit edgy here, okay? So we always say it's the women that do all the chatting, and that's what us guys say. It's not true, though, is it? You go onto YouTube, and it's full of tech guys telling you about the latest tech gossip, Mac guys telling you what the latest rumor of where the next Mac. There are guys who do video channels full of just rumors of what might be the next version of a Mac product, either the phone or a Mac Mini or a Mac laptop or whatever it's going to be, or what colors are going to be added. I'm sorry, but tech guys are the biggest gossips ever. But people eat it up because it's conversational, it's slightly argumentative because you don't know whether you're right or wrong. You're giving predictions. So it's compulsive viewing for those people who may or may not buy the next iPhone. And what do they talk about? They talk about the features and whether it could be this and whether it could be that. And it's interesting, compulsive viewing. it's much more interesting than your webinar. Is it? Because if it is, you need to take your webinar to the next level. Life is too competitive now. And this is before we even mention those two letters, starting with an A and ending with an I. Because once those things start having avatars, actually, what do I mean when YouTube is full of that as well.
I was going to say, John, didn't we figure out how to do avatars last week?
We
In Zoom?
did. We did. And YouTube is full of channels now. of people.
So when was yesterday? When was last week? And how is Zoom? Okay, continue.
It's so easy now to get these AIs to trundle on with these conversations. Now, if you listen to them properly, you'll realize they're AI because they'll do silly things like repeat themselves or change the tense in the middle of a sentence or something stupid like that, or just give a fact that's obviously completely wrong. But if they are now flooding the airways with their mediocre content, and quite frankly, you can't get away anymore with mediocre content. That might mean that you have to do 5 or 6 webinars until you feel confident enough that you start spending money getting people to turn up to the webinars. You can get the first few webinars through with your family and friends because they'll be positive and support you, but your family and friends are probably not going to sign up to whatever you're selling or do whatever you're selling. But at least you'll get the confidence and you'll get the experience of talking to this vague world behind the camera. Get your style right. After all, that's all that Mike and I did 7, 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is.
And I expect we're not completely proud of everything we've done in the last 6 or 8 months. But the numbers have started growing. And not only that, the quality of the people that have been in contact and have been part of the events, and the people that now are starting to say, "Oh, we think we should join in. We'd like to be part of that." The community builds. It doesn't always happen overnight. Your webinars won't always succeed overnight. But guess what? If you record them, you've got a library, a catalogue of stuff. But when people start turning up, they've got other stuff to watch again. Because the biggest fear of when you get people watching your webinars is you feel compelled that you've got to run another webinar next week because you need to give them some new content. Well, if you've been building the content up over time, then you've got a back catalogue of information which you can make use of. I've looked through some of my old videos and some of them are quite bad by today's standards. We've got a lot hotter now in using just production studio to enable Mike to disappear off and come back onto stage and then bring in some presentations. We don't have one today, but bring some presentation on the screen and work with the things. And our presentation skills have got better and our ability to flip between things has got better. And the communication between the two of us, because we don't practice these, we are not using a script to run these. These are just live. We have a list of things. We don't have a list of things. I have a list of things which I hope to get through. And Mike just comes for the ride and tries to keep up. And sometimes it's hard for him to keep up because he doesn't know where I'm going. But again, you just learn how to present and how to signpost things where you're going. And signposting is pretty good for your audience too. Okay, you want to do the odd, exciting, sudden thing. But I was on a webinar last week and I said, you got to accept that things that go wrong. And as I said wrong, I hit this button on my machine, and I had a predetermined card which comes on and just says, sorry, got a problem, be back in a minute. What did it do? It broke the atmosphere, broke the ice. And I did notice more people started interacting in that particular webinar just because I played a little stunt like that, which took some of the officialdom, shall we say, off the presentation, made people more interested in joining in. Because they knew they couldn't make a bigger idiot themselves than me, so they were going to take part. Sometimes you've got to be the fall guy for your own production. It's fine. You don't have to imagine that everything's perfect, because nothing is perfect. Oh, especially not this internet now. This internet is so complicated. There's a million things that can go wrong, completely out of your control, from power cuts to vociferous Amazon people trying to deliver when you're in the middle of a webinar, to people coming into the room who shouldn't, children coming to annoy daddy, lights failing, cables falling out. Things will go wrong. It's guaranteed. Sometimes they don't happen before the meeting. Sometimes they happen during the meeting. I've only twice forgotten to record it and had to do a whole presentation again. But twice in 5 years isn't too bad. So I can promise you, once you have that, you just start building in backups. Enjoy your time doing your webinars. Because as Mike said, if you bring baggage of arguments with the spouse or your boss or whatever with you, it's not going to work. So enjoy yourself. After all, you're going to sit there for 10, 20, 30, 50 minutes talking about something when you're not sure exactly how many people are, well, you know how many people are on the webinar, but how many of them are cooking the meal, doing the dinner, or have they just turned it on and walked away because they just wanted you to feel that you were being supported? You don't know until you ask that question, and then you find out who answers it. And then you know that you wait till Mike's distracting and then you throw a question in, because that always gets their attention back, hopefully. Doesn't it, Mike?
Sure does. Sure does. Even though I was paying attention the whole time.
So enjoy yourself. And remember then that you were a happy, engaging person. And people buy from people like them and that they like. And I can show you lots of fancy ways to collect data. But it's no good me showing you those fancy ways unless I can encourage you to do things to create the data in the first place. So apart from one of my PCs resetting, my basement's starting to flood. And I couldn't work out a decent theme tune for this series, because we're now trying to have theme tunes for every single show. Things have gone quite well today.
Yeah, considering production studio didn't know how to behave itself in the beginning for me. Then all of a sudden, John was about 10 minutes in and nobody noticed that I was having any problems.
No. We love Zoom version 7. I love just going through the things and finding out features they've added that I never realized were there. But please, chat, emoji, poll, interact, and then you've got lots of data to pull in. And it's also a really good way of finding out if people did tune out halfway through the presentation, because your interaction will dry up. And talking of drying up, we have conversed for our time that we like to set for ourselves. And
we should tell everybody this, what's going to be happening this week, John.
Well, I have a lot more webinars going on now. Mike doesn't see them, thank God, because it would probably scare living daylights out of him. So we have our 3 main shows, shall we call them? This one on Monday is all about interaction. Tuesday is our main show. And then on Friday, we have a show for production people who want to use tech to a bigger level. The rest of the shows are starting now to fall more organized into a 4-week period so that I have a theme for each week. But tomorrow, for those that are watching live or live-ish, tomorrow we are talking about Zoom schedule, because I managed to nab 2 of the engineers that actually write the code for Zoom schedule. We had a great chat for about 20 minutes, and I had some questions from the community, I had some questions from the developers, I had some questions of my own. And from that, I have been able to learn lots of really interesting things about Zoom schedule. And tomorrow, or if you're watching on a replay, it should be on YouTube. You can pick up what I learned. So I'm looking forward to amazing Mike and all of you with my knowledge of Zoom schedule on Lord Zoom Live. But for today, for this particular episode, I've only got one thing to say. Goodbye.
See you next week, everyone.
Every week we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. From big events to breakout rooms with flair, we've got the tools and we're ready to share. Guest experts drop in, bringing gold each time, with insights and tricks to help you climb. Can't make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we glow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. And make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Now take the spotlight, the stage is yours. Bring your message through virtual doors. Each week we gather, and now you know you're not alone, so let it flow. Thank you for joining us, now go and shine. Share what you've learned, your voice, your time. With Lord Zoom Live, your power will grow. It's time to build your own show.